two simple words that I always say when I make a mistake. First thing I learned this when I was just a kid. You make a mistake, you stand up and you go,
absolutely.
I'm sorry.
No chance.
I made a mistake.
Zippo chance.
This wasn't as I thought it would be.
I'll shave my head. I'll shave my head if he says I'm sorry.
So that's a whole other thing.
I will shave my head.
Wow.
Well, that was October 21st right here on Mornings on the Mall.
Yeah,
Dan Bongino
you had the
sitting
day
in.
off.
Exactly. See what happens, the kind of trouble you get yourself into when you fill in for me on my day off.
Dan was filling in, and we were just wrapping up, and we knew the president was going to come up in a bit, and I asked this rhetorical question, and Dan he just jumped in there.
He sure did. And then, well, it didn't happen that day on October 21st, but then, just a couple of weeks later, specifically November 7th, we heard this from the president.
I am sorry that they are finding themselves in this situation based on assurances they got from me.
Now, of course, we have talked about how this isn't really the appropriate apology.
It's
he
not
wasn't
really
sorry
an
for what he
apology,
should have been sorry for, and he didn't really apologize in the appropriate way. That being said, that day, Chris Plant, of course, remembering Dan Bongino's promise, seized on an opportunity.
Dan, you got your Norelco razor ready?
You know what, Chris? I am a man of my word, and I am going to do it. Michael called, and once Michael Piercy calls you and says, hey, you want to go on the air and do it, I'm in.
You are next Friday?
Next Friday, the 15th, so I'm announcing here on the Chris Plant Show, just tweeted it out, I will be shaving my head.
Joining us now, live in studio, Dan Bongino with a fine head of hair. Dan?
That's right, and soon to be more aerodynamic. Maybe I'll save some energy calories walking down the street with my new less wind resistance look.
Now, given the fact that the president's apology was not really full-throated, I screwed up and I'm at fault, I'm sorry. It really wasn't that. I'm sorry if you think it was sort of a non-apology apology.
He said, "I'm sorry." People find themselves. He caused them to be in there, but you're one of those people, Dan Bongino. You lost your insurance.
So why do you feel the obligation to go forward?
Because. I know it's kind of funny and comical that we all do this, and at least I didn't agree to get a life-size tattoo of myself on myself. That really would have been tough to keep. Can you imagine that? Although I'd look younger.
I thought you already had one of those.
To steal a Stephen Wright joke. No, I feel like in an era of wishy-washy politics and the D.C. cesspool, that if you're really going to run on something and try to be an outsider to an insider process, that you should stick to your word. And even though it's kind of a joke, I did feel when Michael called that, although we laughed about it, that. And I told my daughter, who's horrified that I'm going to shave my head, I said, hey, listen, Daddy said he's going to do something, so I'm going to do it.
It's a good lesson.
Yeah.
And you talk about running for something. You're running for the Republican primary for the House of Representatives in the 6th District of Maryland. And so you're not worried about, going out on campaign appearances with the cue ball look and people thinking, what the heck's going on with this guy?
No, I'm not. I had a shaved head in college. It's actually easier. Listen, I don't have, Larry, I don't have the best head of hair. I got to put that goop in it to keep it back. I don't really like the look as is. So, I was talking to Bill off the air, and I thought, maybe it's a better look in the long run anyway. It is a little cold out, though. It's probably the wrong time.
Yeah, this is a tough time of year to do that. Yeah. All right. So, Dan, it is very cool, and we should let everybody know we're going to do this because Plant is part of this. This is going to be like a WMAL morning all-star thing.
Overlap, cross-promotion.
Brian and I are going to hang here, and then Chris is going to start his show at the top of the hour, and that's when the shaving will occur.
And it's going to be done by the folks at the grooming lounge. Yeah. They're going to be here to do that.
But Dan,
I met them outside. They look very lovely.
While we've got you,
sharpening their razors.
Yes, they are. I know. It worried me a little bit. Back and forth, smiling.
Do we have music from Sweeney Todd to accompany this, perhaps?
Geez. There we go. That's what we need.
Dan, since we've got you, former Secret Service agent, a great political commentator, and, of course, candidate for the House of Representatives, got to ask you about what happened yesterday. You saw the president come out, and he's proposing this fix from the executive branch. He doesn't even think he has to go through the House of Representatives. If you were the congressman for the 6th District of Maryland right now, and you saw what the president said yesterday, you would have sworn when you came into office to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. What would you do as a congressman knowing that the president is sort of acting extra constitutionally here?
Yeah, I thought it was the law of the land, right, Larry? I mean, it's clearly only the law of the land when the president thinks so. So he unilaterally changes it. And my question to everyone is, if the president's telling the truth, he said that the insurance companies canceled these policies on their own, not due to Obamacare, then why does the president have to unilaterally change Obamacare for you to keep your insurance? Has anybody asked himself that question?
It's a great question. If they did this on their own, then why does the law need to be changed at all?
Because he's clearly, again, not telling you the truth. The president has a problem with the truth. I'm sorry if that offends you folks, but I mean, that's a very basic. Remember that logic in college at modus ponens, modus tollens stuff? I mean, logic here. No, I didn't change your plan, right? The insurance companies did it. Okay, so if they're going to change it back, then why does the president then have to go to Congress and change the law? I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, you need to understand that there is one reason for all this. So there's just really one reason, and that is that the president was about to have his butt handed to him on Capitol Hill. Oh, yeah. I mean, the Democrats were ready to defect. There was a meeting, earlier this week, and Democrats pretty much sent the message, I'm not sure we can stand by you any longer. We're catching all kinds of hell back home. And I think as these votes started to take place, they really worried that they might lose.
2014 is going to be a landslide. But, guys, think about it now. All these insurance companies have recalculated, had their actuaries figure out, based on their new risk pool, what these plans are going to be priced. Now they have to scrap it and go back. And mark my words, folks, right now, the president will blame the insurance companies for the coming increases in your prices because they can't reprice the plans they just repriced due to Obamacare. This was a cynical move to blame insurance companies.
He's already sort of laid the groundwork for that.
Speaking of 2014, Dan Bongino, we are talking about Maryland 6th District because you're running for the primary there. If you win that primary for the Republican Party, you're going to be running against incumbent John Delaney, correct?
That's right.
So I'm just curious. I bet you know the answer to this question. Where does Mr. Delaney stand on Obamacare and whether or not it was a good idea? And has he voted to repeal it, as the American people seem to wish Congress to do?
Well, I'll give you a quote by John Delaney. It's a transformative piece of legislation that will lower costs. Oh, it's transformative, all right, John.
That will lower costs.
Yeah, but when you're worth, $50 million like he is, what do you really care about, health care for? Really, it doesn't matter to you. He probably self-insures. I mean, there's nothing that'll bankrupt him.
Yeah, multi-millionaire John Delaney for the 6th District of Maryland isn't going to healthcare.gov to shop around and deal with that morass.
You could buy healthcare.gov.
And remind everyone, you, a common man, Dan Bongino, what happened to your health insurance when the Affordable Care Act went into place, this transformative piece of legislation?
Yeah, it was canceled, and I got so angry. I took a picture of the letter. I put it on my Facebook page, and we got 400,000 people it reached. They were so upset about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it became a national story. You're a former Secret Service agent, and your job was to protect and take a bullet for the president. And here, how many years later, because of his law, you can't get insurance for your family, or at least the policy that you wanted for your family. That's a real stark difference, isn't it, between you and John Delaney?
Yeah, the so-called subpar plan. It was a plan I chose. I'm not stupid, Larry. I can pick my own insurance.
Sit back and enjoy what little hair you have.
Right. Can I just tell you, they're lining up outside the broadcast window here. Everybody at WMAL wants to watch this happen. Maybe we should have people come in and run their hands in your hair just one last time while they can.
That's just creepy. All right, listen, hang on, and we're going to be doing that again during the Chris Plant Show. Thanks to the folks at the Grooming